Hey YouTube, Peterbilt Knife Guy. Today I'm going to be starting a series that I'm going to call Unpopular Opinions. And they're unpopular usually because they're my opinions. And I love discussion. I love the interaction with, people who watch this, crap I put on YouTube and give me their feedback and their opinions. I've learned a lot of things from that. I've learned that people are diehard Buck fans. No matter how bad this deal is, they love them. I've learned a lot of things, but today we're going to be doing one called What is a Hunting Knife? So what is a hunting knife? Unpopular Opinions by Peterbilt Knife Guy. So right here we have some classic examples of hunting knives. Something more vintage, a little more modern, very vintage. Jeez, I don't know. These things probably came out about the same time. This guy right here, which I have bones to pick with, and then something like this, is a modern version of an old Skinner, basically. Knife. I mean, this thing is strictly good for just pulling hides off of stuff and, cutting up a deer or an elk or something like that. But really, what is a hunting knife? What makes, let's just take a couple of these off the table real quick. Let's say this is a very popular hunting knife. What does something like this Buck 119 do that, let's just say, I have a couple of examples here, this one won't do? This, I mean, they're about the same similar blade, carbon steel, well, carbon-ish, stainless steel, similar size handles, something to protect your finger from going up. They both kind of, doesn't really have a guard, but that's going to keep your finger from coming up on the blade. This one has a way to choke up. This one really doesn't. If you have big meaty fingers like I do, you're going to cut yourself. But what makes this a better knife than this for hunting? What makes this to be designated a hunting knife, where, let's say this SE4 here is more of a survival knife. They're both full tang. This one's obviously thicker. Both of these are, this is an overmolded full tang. This is a kind of a rat tail tang. But what would put one of these in a better hunting category for you guys? I looked up the definition of a hunting knife, and it was basically a knife that you would use in the processing of game out in the field. We're not talking about butchering, because if you look at any butcher, so my dad was a butcher his whole life, since he was 16 years old. I grew up around animals being slaughtered and watching animals get butchered. He used none of this stuff. He had a pocket knife and a very small one at that, and then he had a tiny little fixed blade. Something similar to this, actually. Just a tiny little fixed blade, and he would do everything in the field with something like this. This and a sharpener will skin and quarter or whatever you need to do for a deer all day long. When it comes to butchering, you're using something like knives like this. There's another example too. Or something like this. These are both Old Hickory models. Old Hickory's been frickin' butcher knives since, they basically started as a frickin' butcher knife. The original Bowie knife started as a butcher knife. So this is where the unpopular opinion comes in. I don't see these knives right here. Let's say the Buck 119, this knife, even this knife, or this knife as a hunting knife. These one, this one, this one. I don't see these as hunting knives, and I especially don't see this one as a hunting knife. This is where the unpopular opinion comes in, I said. For processing up game, this knife is too much knife. It really is. You could literally process up an entire elk with something like this and a saw. You don't need this. And honestly, you hit a bone with that, and there goes your edge. Same thing here. little smaller version. You know, you don't need a huge knife to process game. If you actually watch any kind of hunting shows, if you're more than a keyboard warrior and have done it, crap's falling down. You'll never see anybody out in the field using one of these. This is not a processing knife. And when I did the hard use test on this, everybody got mad at me and they're like, oh, it's not what that knife's designed for. It's a hunting knife. Well, what's a hunting knife? It's for processing game. Look it up. I'll put the definition in right here. So for processing game, you need something like this? I don't think so. The smaller the better, actually, because this, you have no nimbleness. Do you really want to be up in there like this? That just, with slippery, bloody hands? I don't think so. It ain't gonna happen. So let's do a little demonstration. Let's get these out of the way before I cut myself, because they're all sharp. But give me a cutting board. I use this one for leather work. And a pool noodle. Let's slice up some pool noodles. All right. Yeah, this will do slicing all day long. Can you get a good thin slice on there? Yeah, you kind of can, right? But so can something like this. You know, when you're getting into tight spaces, I would rather have something more like this, where you can get in and get around bones, get around the joints and stuff like that, than this. You're losing, the longer this is, the longer that tip is away from your hand, you're losing dexterity. You know, that's why you see surgeons using these little knives. You know, they're out there 5 feet away with a freaking pole with a knife attached to it. You know, they need the dexterity. This is not going to give you that. This might be closer, and Tristan Barnett will probably disagree with me, but I try this. It's you won't be using this, I guarantee it. You'll want something small. Small like this. This is even still too big. Let's cut some leather. Cutting through hide. Let's see here. Essie. Yep, it'll do it. Buck. Yep, it'll do it. Western. Yep, it'll do it. Buck again. Yep. Big old knife. Yep. Anyways, it's just kind of a video. I just kind of want to do this series because I have a lot of knives and I've always loved knives, and it just kind of boggles my mind, like, what makes this a tactical knife? What makes this a hunting knife? What makes this a tactical knife? Let's see here. What makes this a survival knife? These 3 items will all do the same. Is it looks, functionality? They'll pretty much do the same. Let me know in the comments. But anyways, thanks for watching.